Michelle from Seems So Me, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this really helpful lava sand neck heating pad. And the way this came about is I recently went through a hysterectomy about 3 months ago, and I researched quite a bit on what would be helpful in the recovery process. And I had posted for the ones I made for myself, and many of you reached out and said, how could I make this same thing? So in this tutorial, we're going to learn how to make this, and I'm actually featuring Cottage Core by Jessica Flick. It is a line from Benartex, and I actually used one of their panels. And so this looks like it was pieced, but it's really not. It's all one print. It has lava sand in it. It's got the handles. And with this, in this tutorial, one of the things that we're going to go over is what you need. But it's really important with this that you use all cotton thread, cotton fabric, because this will be heated up in the microwave. And you're not supposed to heat it up more than 2 minutes because it can catch fire. So make sure that you use all cotton. It's a simple tutorial. You can make this in about 30 minutes. And if you want, you actually could make this along with a hysterectomy pillow. Now I have a tutorial for this hysterectomy pillow. I'll put it in the link below so you actually can see how to make this. This would make a great gift for yourself if you're going to go through a hysterectomy or any kind of C-section or abdominal surgery, because this is really helpful for you to protect those incisions as well as when you cough or sneeze, and it also helps keep pets off of your belly when you're laying in bed if you have cuddle bugs that like to cuddle up with you, and it also helps with the little bitty kids that you might be taking care of stay off of your belly when you're recovering. So check the link below for this one if you want to learn how to make that and make this as a set. Now, Lavaloo is the brand that I used of the actual sand that's in here, and I'll show that to you in a minute. They sent me the 16 pound sand to be able to use because I actually used it and bought it the first time for mine, and I told them how helpful it was, so they sent me a complimentary bag. I'll link that for you below, but I used that rather than lavender or buckwheat or rice because those things spoil. If you think about how much you might sweat when this is heated up, this is going to get kind of sweaty and kind of yucky, and you're going to launder it. You actually can launder this. Of course, it's cotton, but the lava sand is washable because it's basically a kind of rock that's really, really thin. So you actually could submerge this in the bathtub with some Dawn or some laundry detergent and be able to wash this. So that's another helpful thing about using lava sand. So this is the lava sand neck pad. Let's get started and I'll show you how to make it. Let's first talk about the items that you will need to make your lava sand neck heating wrap. So it's really simple, especially if you just want to use one piece of fabric, but you can get scrappy. You can piece together the long strips if you want. This is actually a cheater print. This is the Cottage Core collection by Jessica Flick from Benartex, and this is one of the prints in there. And what's super fun about it is it actually looks like I have sewn strips together, and I haven't. So that'll be really nice whenever I go to sew some areas in there that actually create the little cylinders inside the neck wrap. So that's what I'll be using. So you're going to need some yardage, and that will actually be cut. It depends on if you want one continuous piece of fabric for the front and the back, you're going to cut that 28 inches by 12 inches. Or if you want two separate pieces, maybe a different front and a different back, you actually could do 28 by 6 inches, but you'll need two of those. I'm going to show you how to do it with one piece of fabric just to keep it really simple. You also need your lava sand. Now, this sand is by Lavaloo, and they actually sent this to me. I purchased a bag for my hysterectomy neck heating pad that I made, and I'll show you that in a moment. And then I loved it so much, I told them I was going to make this tutorial, so they sent this to me complimentary. I'll put the link for you below. But the great thing about this lava sand is that it doesn't spoil. So a lot of people will use rice and buckwheat and lavender and things like that. Well, after you sweat through your fabric quite a bit and you keep heating it up and all of that, it eventually can spoil, it can attract bugs, and it just never smells good. This is a great solution to that, and it heats up well. So I'll have the link for you for that. It is a little, it is a little messy messing with it, so you'll want to be careful. And we'll talk about that as we get into the tutorial. Lastly, you're going to want something for your handles. I'm going to show you how to use, this is 100% cotton twill tape ribbon. This is the 1-inch size, and then this is the 2-inch size. If you use the 2-inch, you actually can just fold it over, and you will stitch 1/8 of an inch top stitch all the way down both sides, and it makes for a really sturdy handle. Or you can use one layer and just use the 1-inch, and you'll cut your 2 strips there. So for this, you're going to need 2 10-inch strips for your handles. And again, you have the option of either getting this and doubling it over, or you can use this and you don't double it. Now, I also use this for my tote bag. So if you buy one of these, I put the link for you again on Amazon, and I love this stuff. It's really inexpensive, and I use these for my tote bags all the time because I don't like having to turn long tubes that are about this narrow inside out or right side out. It just takes too much time. So again, I'm going to use this. If you want to sew your own straps out of cotton material, you can. Again, you'll just need your strips to be 10 inches long, and you'll want to do the tube method, which I do not like at all. So I put the links for you here on how to use that. And one thing I want to highlight is make sure your fabric and whatever you use, this is 100% cotton, or if you use your fabric for your handles, make sure it's 100% cotton, as well as your thread in the top and in the bobbin, because you're not supposed to heat these up for more than 2 minutes. And if you do, if your microwave's too high, you put it in there too long, it actually, there's pieces that can catch fire for like your thread if it was not 100% cotton. So again, don't keep this in your microwave longer than 2 minutes. I usually just do about maybe a minute, maybe a little longer than a minute to heat it up. So keep that in mind whenever you're using your thread. In the past, when making like bowl koozies, have accidentally used polyester, and it will scorch, the fabric will. So make sure you use 100%. Okay, let's get started in putting together our lava sand neck wrap. I wanted to show you mine. This is the one I made for my hysterectomy, what it looks like if you make it really scrappy. These were leftover prints that I had. I made a matching quilt for my hysterectomy so that I would have that, since I was going to be in bed quite a bit and resting a lot. And then also my hysterectomy pillow. And so it was all a matching set. So if you wanted to make a matching set for someone of this and a hysterectomy pillow, which I've linked that for you below as well. I have a tutorial on how to make that. You could actually make a matching set. And if you wanted, you could use all the same fabrics. So here's what it looks like scrappy. And it's got the sand in there, and then it's got, of course, the handles here that you can see. Okay, now let's get started. Okay, so we've got our pieces here. This is the one piece of fabric from yardage, but if you want to do 2 pieces where your back is different than your front, or maybe you've done patchwork or something like that, you'll need 2 pieces that are 28 by 6, or if you're doing it like me and the tutorial, it's 1 piece that's 28 by 12, because we're actually going to fold it over, and we're gonna take advantage of this fold line here. So you've got that piece, and then you'll need your strap. So again, I love to use these, the Twill ribbon, and that's linked for you below. So what you'll do first is go to your sewing machine. You'll fold both of these straps in half here. If you want to use clips, you can, but I don't. I just kind of fold it over and finger press down. And then you'll want to sew about 1/8 of an inch along both edges. So 1/8 of an inch on this side and 1/8 of an inch on this side. And then you've got nice, durable, thick straps. So I'm going to do that on both of mine. Now, if you are just using fabric that you have, you'll want to do it the tube method way. And so what you'll do with this is you're going to want 4 pieces. And these are, the measurements are in the description box below, but I'll mention it again. These are 10 by 2.5, and you need 4 of them. You'll need 2 for each handle. If you're using the twill, then you only need 2 of these. These are 10 inches long, and these are 2 inches wide. You don't have to allow for a seam allowance on these. So what you'll do is you'll put these right sides together here like this, and you'll sew all the way down this side and all the way down this side here, 1/4 of an inch. And then you'll do the same thing for these 2 strips. You'll sew 1/4 inch on both sides and flip these right side out and press them. So that's what you'll do with your handles first. And then after we do the handles, we're actually going to work on the actual neck wrap. So what you're going to do is you're going to fold this over, right sides together, and we're going to take advantage of this fold like this. Okay, so you've got your straps sewn together, particularly if you used these that I'm using. You can see here I've sewn about 1/8 of an inch on both sides. You can't even tell which side really is the fold and then the other side that you folded it onto, but those are the straps if you do that. Now I've sewn one for you to see what it looks like if you actually sew both of these together, so pretty sides together. You sew 1/4 of an inch down, and then you're going to turn this right side out, which again, this is what I don't like doing. It's not as hard with these because they're a little bit longer or wider, I mean, but I've got a chopstick. I just don't enjoy this part here. I feel like it takes more time, but if you don't want to buy that twill and also use it for tote bags, no worries. You can do it this way. And so what you'll do, just like this one, is you're going to want to really kind of get it where it's folded over really well, and you'll press on both sides so it's nice and flat. Once you do that, then this needs to be folded over. So you're going to fold this over in half, and then you're going to sew that 1/8 of an inch on both sides of this strap. And it gives it, you don't have to use any interfacing since you're doubling this over this way. It makes it a good thickness. And so you'll sew 1/4 inch on this side and 1/4 inch on this side. And you'll also do that with this strap too. Okay, your straps are all sewn. So you can see I have sewn 1/4 inch on each side there when I folded this over. And I actually have changed my mind. I fell in love with these little mushrooms, so I am going to go ahead and use these for my handles rather than the twill ribbon that I had cut. I'll use those for something else. I just fell in love with the mushrooms, so I'm going to use these for a little more of a scrappy vibe. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to measure in 1 inch. So you see the fold here, we're going to have folded this over, and you can just finger press right there to see where that is. That would be the 6th mark line because this is 12 inches. So I'm just going to use my mat to measure over, and you're going to want to make sure that these are facing the right direction, the loops are. You're going to want to place it in about 1 inch there and 1 inch on this side here. And I'll use my clips here to keep this in place. There's 1 inch there and 1 inch here. And then what we'll do is we will fold this over on top, right sides together. Again, double check, make sure that's in the right place. Clip it, and then check your other strap. Again, I'm looking here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So make sure this is right here at the 1 inch line. Fold that over. And then I'm going to clip that in place. All right. You only do 1 strap for now because we have to save the other end until, so we can fill it. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this to your sewing machine, and you're going to start up here, and you're going to stitch 1/4 inch all the way down, pivot, back stitch over both your straps, and go all the way to the end and back stitch down here. Make sure you back stitch really well down here because you don't want any of your lava sand to accidentally come out. So back stitch several times here at the end, and then I'll show you what we're going to do next. Okay, so now we've sewn all the way down the top and the bottom. We've backstitched really well. Clip off your corner here. And now we're going to reach in and grab the strap, and we're gonna pull it right side out. So this is a lot easier to do it this way than I think 2 pieces of fabric, just because you don't have to stitch down that extra side. But if you're wanting to do something, you know, a little more patchwork or sew jelly rolls together or things like that, you know, you definitely can do that. So we're gonna, isn't that cute? Look at the little mushrooms. So I'm gonna use my chopstick here, and I'm gonna go ahead and poke out those corners to make sure that they're poked out really well. A little tip, I actually do not use blunt scissors. I know that sometimes that's in tutorials, but I have accidentally poked through fabric before. So I use a blunt chopstick, or I have a really nice point turner, a wooden one that I use that's over by my sewing machine. So now what you're gonna do is you're gonna take this to your pressing station, and you're gonna wanna press everything down really flat, all the way down. And when you get down here to the end, fold this under 1/4 of an inch like this, so you don't have the seams showing. And then also press this down 1/4 of an inch, all right? Okay, so here's what it looks like now. You've pressed everything really flat. This handle's good. So now, and also you've got this pressed in, folded in and pressed 1/4 of an inch. Now we're actually going to stitch. Before we stuff it, we're gonna have 2 stitch lines all the way down. This is gonna create the sections for us. I suggest only really doing 2, because if you do a bunch of really small ones, it takes forever to put the lava down in each little tube. So the way I think that is super handy is I have a 2.5 inch ruler right here. So I'm actually just gonna kind of line mine up in the middle. If you want, you can measure over exactly to make sure it's equal on both sides, completely up to you. But I'm just gonna line that up there. And since this ruler is a bit smaller, then I'm gonna have to use this one on top of it to make the line go straight down. But you're going to first measure 1.5 inches down, and that's where you're gonna start sewing. So I'm gonna make myself a little mark right there on both sides for the 1.5 inches to start my sewing there. That just allows you a little extra room here that we're gonna need to put this final strap under here and sew. And if we started stitching all the way up here at the top, there would not really be room for our handles. So just give yourself about 1.5 inches. You could do 1 inch if you wanted, actually. Let's just do that. Let's go ahead and just do 1 inch on there. 1 inch, 1.5 inches, whichever you prefer. And that way we'll have enough room to put our handles inside there and stitch. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna line this up, because this is actually a 3.5 inch ruler. I can't do it that way. I'm gonna line it up, and you can decide if you wanna draw a line down it to keep it straight or not, completely up to you. I'll have to move this up here out of the way. This is a water-soluble pen, and so it will actually, if I spritz it, it'll actually rinse off. So I'll draw my first line down here, and that's gonna be my first stitch line. And same with this, I'm gonna stop at about the 1 inch mark there, so that it'll look even on both sides as far as that stitch. And so then on this side, same thing. I'll leave that there as my guide. Put this one down here on top of it. And I'm just gonna draw my line. This just helps me stitch straight. You could use chalk if you wanted. I've learned not to use a fabric erasing pen that is the, I forget the kind, they're actually like ink pens. I used to use them, and they actually messed up my fabric. They actually kind of stained them up. So now what you're gonna do is you're gonna start, again, you've come down here and marked about 1 inch right here. That's where you're gonna back stitch. You're gonna sew all the way down here to this 1 inch line. Same thing, 1 inch, start down 1 inch and stitch all the way down here and make sure that you back stitch. Okay, so we are ready now that we have put our 2 stitches down the middle. We've made some tubes here. We're ready to actually fill each of these. There's 3 sections full of the lava sand. Now I've put this in a second bag because there's a little bit of a hole at the bottom and it's leaking. But what is helpful is if you have a funnel. So it'll be a lot easier, but if you don't have a funnel, you actually could get you some paper, some like thick cardstock, and then just kind of twist it into a cone to be able to make you a funnel. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to, put the funnel in there, and then we are going to start adding the lava sand to each strip here, each section. So go ahead and do that, and when you fill it up, stop. Where we didn't stitch all the way up to the top here, you're going to want to stop right about there with your lava sand, because you're going to want to have room. We've got to be able to put the straps here like this and sew this shut. And if you fill the lava sand too far up, you're not going to be able to get this to your machine without the sand falling out. So it's a little bit tricky. So once I get all of this filled up with sand, then I'll go over to the sewing machine and I'm going to show you how to gently be able to sew this shut with the sand in there. Okay, so you have now filled your neck warmer with the lava sand. And so I've got the middle tube just a little bit bigger than the 2 outside ones. And like I mentioned, remember, I stopped filling the sand here at about where I stopped, maybe down just a little further. Let's measure it. I stopped filling the sand at about, let's see there, looks like about 2 inches down. That way, this can fit underneath the sewing machine because I don't have any of the lava sand here. The lava sand is back there and it's kind of heavy, so it's not going to come out when we stitch this. Now I used clips, clover clips, to kind of close up each little tube when I put the lava sand down in there. So now let's go over to the sewing machine and I'm just going to show you how I maneuver this and sew this up, and then we will evenly distribute all of this sand down on both ends. But what we need to do first, actually, is put in our handle. So I've got my clips here, and I think we measured in about 1 inch, I believe. Let me check the other side there. Yeah, 1 inch in. So that one's going to go there. And then I'll just put one of the clips here on this side and one on that side. And then you want to make sure your handle is not twisted, so make sure it's the right way. And then we'll measure this in, take that one off, about 1 inch. And that's going to go about right there, like that. And then clip it on both sides. Now, we're going to sew this shut, and we're going to back stitch over both of these because there will be some weight when you pull on these handles when you're carrying it around. So we're going to back stitch where we start. We're going to back stitch over the handles. We're going to sew down, back stitch over this part of the handle, and then back stitch down here at the end. So make sure that you do that. So let's go to the sewing machine and close this up. Okay, so I have this here now at the sewing machine. I'm just going to kind of let the edge, that hang off a little bit at the edge there. And this is kind of heavy because it's got the sand in it. So kind of maneuver this over here. We'll just put it underneath the presser foot. And I'm going to sew not quite a 1/4 inch. I'm actually going to sew about 1/8 of an inch. So this is my 1/8. This is my zipper foot. So I'm actually just gonna leave this on here. And I'm gonna reduce my stitch length to 1.8 and then back stitch. And then I'm just gonna sew, and I'll have to kind of move this end down as we go. And you might hear a teeny little bit of crunching. If there's a little bit of lava sand underneath there, you might hear that with your needle. So just keep that in mind. It's not a huge deal, but you might have to change your needle afterwards. You might want to use an older needle when you're doing this. So I'm just going to keep stitching here. And then I've got to move this kind of out of the way on that side. And like I said, we didn't fill it all the way because that way you don't have sand, the lava sand getting out all on your machine. I'm going to back stitch over the handle. Remember, we are using 100% cotton thread also. That's really important so that when you heat this up in the microwave, it does not catch fire. So there we are at the end. We're going to back stitch. There we go. So now we have sewn the handle shut. So I'm going to trim off these threads here, and then I'll go back and we will smooth this out. Okay, so we've sewn it shut, and now what you're gonna do, you're just gonna kind of move the sand around a little bit to where you're feeling the end down here, kind of evenly distribute it. You don't want it to be too tight. You don't want it to be overfilled because you want this to bend right here when it's around your neck. You want to have a little bit of movement there. Otherwise, if this was so stiff, it wouldn't really bend around your neck very easily. So we'll just kind of maneuver some of that around a little bit. And, you know, this is going to move. I mean, there's a little extra room in there. So this is going to move around a little bit in a position that you like for your neck. And so that, my friends, is a really great lava sand neck heating pad with these cute little handles. And I found this extremely helpful to use during my hysterectomy. So like I mentioned, there's a link below for a tutorial for the hysterectomy pillow. I made one of these for myself because they put so much carbon dioxide inside you to blow you up for that gas. When it gets trapped in your neck, and it is really painful and hard to get out. And I found one of the recommendations was to use a heating pad around my neck. And so I thought this was a great way to be able to make one. This is actually washable with the lava sand. You can actually just submerge it like in the sink. I wouldn't suggest putting it in the washing machine with the agitation, but you could soak it in the washing machine if you wanted. Just don't put it on the spin cycle. You could soak it in the bathtub. And you know, if you get to sweating and eventually you want to wash that, you can, because it's lava sand. It's not rice. It's not buckwheat. It's not lavender. So you're not going to ruin it. So anyway, you can launder this, which is a really great thing. Well, I hope you found this tutorial helpful and that you enjoyed if you're making this for yourself or if you're making it for someone else who's going through a hysterectomy. It makes a great little kit to make this as well as the hysterectomy pillow for them. I can tell you both of those items were so helpful for me in my recovery. So until next time, quilty friends, make lovely things. So this is the lava sand neck heating pad, and this is what this looks like when you've got it around your neck. It's really bendy, but there's still enough in it so that it really works well around your neck and your shoulders to really release a lot of that trapped gas after surgery. And this one I made out of one piece of fabric that looks like I have kind of sewn some strips together, but I didn't. It's actually a cheater fabric. You've got the little handles here so that you can, you know, hold on to it if you want. If you want to have some pressure here around your neck, you can do that. Also, just to be able to carry it around. So I found this extremely helpful for releasing the gas. It's kind of painful about the first 7 days after your hysterectomy or any kind of surgery in which they use carbon dioxide to blow up your abdominal cavity. For some reason, it gets trapped in your shoulders. And so I found this extremely helpful. So this is what this looks like.